Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean, and here are your headline news. Life News reports Florida bill to ban abortions would give $25 million to pregnancy centers that help women. Pro-life legislation, Senate Bill 300, sponsored by State Senator Aaron Grahl from Fort Pierce, would provide $25 million to help pregnancy centers expand resources to pregnant and parenting families in need throughout the state. An additional $5 million would go to the state family planning program to provide contraception to low-income individuals. According to the Miami Herald and Reveal News, the bill will increase funding to the state Alternatives to Abortion program by 5 times. The state budgeted $4.45 million for the program in 2022. While Florida lawmakers would work to ban abortions and expand support for mothers and babies, the state also is defunding the abortion industry. Yay and amen. Epoch Times reports CDC warns of dangerous fungal infections spreading through the USA at an alarming rate. Candida auris is a rare fungal disease that is easily spread through contact with contaminated surfaces or from person to person and can cause severe illness in hospitalized patients and those with weakened immune systems, according to health officials. Data from a limited number of patients shows that 30 to 60% of people diagnosed with the fungal disease have died. However, healthy people typically do not get sick from the fungal disease. There were at least 2,377 confirmed clinical cases of Candida auris in the United States in 2022, according to CDC stats, up from 1,474 in 21 and 757 cases back in 2020. Data shows that fungal disease is now present in more than half of the United States. LifeSite reports high school football coach fired for praying with players rehired, awarded nearly $2 million. After a years-long legal battle, Christian high school assistant football coach Joseph Kennedy has been reinstated to his position and awarded nearly $2 million after he was fired for leading players in prayer after each game. As previously reported by LifeSite News, Kennedy had prayed on the field without issue for 7 years until the coach of an opposing team told Bremerton High School's principal that Kennedy had asked the coach's players to join in a post-game prayer, prompting a district investigation into Kennedy's compliance with the school board's religious policy. Justice Neil Gorsuch of the United States Supreme Court wrote in the court's June 27 majority opinion, quote, "Here, a government entity sought to punish an individual for engaging in a personal religious observance based on a mistaken view that it has a duty to suppress religious observances, even as it allows comparable secular speech. The Constitution neither mandates nor tolerates that kind of discrimination," close quote. And those are your headline news. Glory be to God. Well, Edward couldn't stay around for the next segment, so I found another article for you. And this one is another 10-year look back, going back to on the pontificate of His Holiness Pope Francis. This one from Eric Sammons. And I did reach out to Eric and tried to get him on, but he wasn't available. So let me just read. It's very short and sweet, actually. It says 10 years of confusion, political ideology, and scandal. And I think this is the challenge for a lot of Catholics. I mean, we, of course, love and support the pontificate. We love and support His Holiness personally, but yet at the same time, we can't dismiss, turn a blind eye, or pretend as though there haven't been major problems in regard to this pontificate over the past 10 years, right? So this is what the article says. Today is the 10th anniversary of the election of Jorge Bergoglio to the papacy. It's customary on anniversaries to look back and reflect on the 10 years spent together, but my mom has also told me that if I can't say something nice, I shouldn't say anything at all. I'm not sure what to do today. I guess I'll ignore Mom. The blunt reality is that the papacy of Francis, by any Catholic measure, has been a disaster. It's not that he hasn't at times done some good acts or spoken some good words. It's that the overall thrust of his pontificate has been one of confusion, political ideology, and scandal. In the first year of his papacy, Francis uttered the infamous words, "Who am I to judge?" And ever since then, he has done far more to confuse the faithful than to confirm them. While Pope-splainers have created a cottage industry trying to explain why the plain meaning of Francis's words are not his actual meaning, most reasonable people have understood that what he means is what he says, even when what he says makes little sense. Further, his individual statements are not spoken in a vacuum. While one might be able to interpret each of his more troublesome statements in a fully Catholic sense if we squint just enough, when taken as a whole over the 10 years, it's clear that Francis wishes to undermine many of the practices and even teachings Catholics have held dear over the centuries. There's one thing, however, about which the Pope is not confused: his political agenda. Pope Francis has turned the Vatican essentially into a political NGO. While every pope rightly should comment on politics, the office of the papacy isn't to advocate for the latest United Nations initiative or World Economic Forum plan. It's to proclaim the saving gospel of Jesus Christ as found in the Catholic Church. Yet Francis seems to use his moral authority not to urge people to convert to Catholicism. In fact, he appears to abhor conversions, but to push the latest globalist political agenda, such as combating climate change or immigration reform. By associating himself, he thus the Catholic Church, with these worldly goals, he diminishes the ability of the Church to rise above political differences to point to a spiritual path to salvation. And while the media, particularly Catholic media, want to ignore it, this papacy has been rife with scandal. Beyond the scandal of Francis's own confusing words, there are the multitude of scandals involving abusive prelates and priests who have received preferential treatment if they are ideologically aligned with Francis. The public revelation of former Cardinal Theodore McCarrick as a monster seriously undermined Francis's stated goal to clean up the church. Here was a man who was known as a predator by many high-ranking Catholics, including the Pope himself, yet he was placed in the inner circle by Francis early in his pontificate. Countless other scandals have littered the past 10 years, but the most recent one regarding Father Marko Rupnik, S.J., might be the most troubling. The accusations against Rupnik are shocking, and the fact that he seems to still enjoy favor at the Vatican in spite of those accusations reveal a deeply dysfunctional curia. Combine the Vatican's inaction when it comes to Rupnik with its jihad against traditional Catholics, and you have a recipe for a Rome in shambles. Confusion, political ideology, and scandal have been our continual companions this past 10 years, and there's little reason to believe that will change while this Pope still reigns. Some Catholics attempt to explain these problems away, or even claim that they are good things. Or other Catholics try their best to ignore them. Sadly, many Catholics have broken communion with the Catholic Church for atheism and agnosticism, orthodoxy and sedevacantism. While each person is responsible for his own decisions, Pope Francis will also have to answer for these defections on the day of his particular judgment. For my part, I still see hope in the midst of these problems. If nothing else, the misadventures of Pope Francis have allowed Catholics to more deeply understand the papacy, both its authority and its limitations. While many Orthodox Catholics might have lived in a state of blissful hyper-papalism under John Paul II and Benedict XVI, Francis has reminded us that the true head of the Catholic Church is Jesus Christ, and his vicar is not guaranteed to be faithful to him in everything he does. I will put a link to this, to Edward Pentin, to all the articles we discussed in the news, the two articles I discussed at 15 Past, all in the show notes today. You can find them in just a little while over on our website at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. thestationofthecross.com/ACT. Going to go into the after show live on the video feeds on social media, thestationofthecross.com/ACT. God love you.
All right, Joe, we're clear, and we are on with the after show.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Sorry about the YouTube crash. Hopefully we're getting some folks back there. Evodio, good morning. Yvonne, good morning to you. Andrea, good morning to you. We appreciate that. Thank you for your patience with the tech issues. There was lots of problems today. Not just tech. Just trying to get ready. Just trying to get ready. Hey, good morning to everybody over on the Telegram group, by the way. Praise be to God. Glad to see that group growing over there. I see Damon is in the house. Anna Pierman, good morning to you. Praise be to God. Glad to see you here. Mike K, my friend. Jack Burton in the house over there. Yvonne is over there. Praise be to God. Good morning, everybody. Do notice anything? What am I missing? Oh, that's awkward. Yikes, I do notice that, Yvonne. Thank you for pointing that out. We need to fix that. There's my former radio show is listed on the mobile app instead of the current radio show. Good times. Good times. Only professionals here. T Storm, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Appreciate it. Praise be to God. Michael Marr, good morning to you. Glad to see you here. Yeah, yes, only the best for us. Praise be to God. Patience, humility, all of it. Hey, I don't have any comments right now on Rumble. So if you did comment, I cannot see them. So do me a favor, and if you're listening on Rumble, watching on Rumble right now, would you leave us a rant? Leave a little comment right now. Let us know that you're there. Let us know that you're hanging out with us. I'd be grateful to you. Praise be to God. Patty, FBI had problems too, jumping all over just to hear you. Oh, no. Oh, Facebook had problems too. Yeah, what was the deal today? Like, I'm telling you, I feel like there's been a diabolical attack on the tech this week. Things just are struggling. We had no sound in the beginning of the live stream. We were on radio, but the live stream was just struggling today. Plus, we lost the YouTube side. I don't have any of the comments right now on Rumble. So Sci-Fi Mike. That's Sci-Fi Mike has finally crossed the Tiber, the Telegram Tiber, and has joined a Catholic Take Inside group. Oh, that's so cool, Sci-Fi. I'm so glad you're here. Praise be to God. Thanks for doing it, brother. Glad to see you on the inside. Thanks for doing it. But Patty, sorry about that. Polo Chicho, buenos dias, mi amigo. ¿Qué tal? Thanks for hanging out with us. Don Paddock, good morning to you. June Yabara is in the house. Praise be to God. I'm glad you guys are here. In spite of it all, you have persevered very well. Norman from Hawaii, aloha, my friend. And Lori, good morning to you. T-Storm says it kept cutting out both on YouTube and here on Telegram. So obviously the problem must have been with Switchboard. A Switchboard is a service we use that we stream to Switchboard, and then Switchboard streams everywhere else. Must have been. The devil is working hard this week. Let me tell you, the devil has been on the assault. And I guess peanuts, like throwing pebbles, considering how many people actually suffer in this world. My sufferings are but peanuts, and yet I complain about them nonetheless. Just take note of that anyway. The devil is working hard. I agree, Evodio. Andrea says, I reject Satan and all his evil ways. St. Michael, protect Joe McClain on this show. I appreciate that. A priest friend of mine texted me yesterday and reminded me that when I get stressed out because things aren't working, to pray for the precious and holy blood of Jesus to wash over me. So I've been doing that this morning, praying for the precious and holy blood of Jesus to wash over me. God bless you, Patty. I appreciate you hanging out this morning. Please keep us in your prayers during the Holy Mass. And what do you guys think of the last 10 years of this papal pontificate? What is your opinion? Yesterday I found it was a very interesting conversation about. We talked about The Chosen yesterday. I published that video on the channel, on the YouTube channel. I went ahead and edited just that section down, and I published that on the channel, which is probably not going to get the most watch time, but nonetheless. And then I I did find out that there was a priest that preached very similarly preached against the Chosen very recently. And then apparently he was tarred and feathered. Not really, but metaphorically speaking, tarred and feathered. So I'm going to book him. I'm going to have him on the show. We're going to have a follow-up conversation about the Chosen, because I know that there are a lot of Catholics who like the Chosen, and not surprised by that at all. I'm sure some of you have heard this. I tell a lot of stories over and over again, and if you've been around, you've probably heard this, but maybe many of you haven't heard this one. Hold on. Coffee was the other thing that didn't work today. My coffee pot exploded on me. It's like a Mr. Coffee kind of thing, and you got the cup, the basket that holds the basket. You got the big basket that has the valve in it, and then inside that you put the hanging basket that you put the coffee grinds in. Well, when that valve gets jammed up with coffee grinds, the whole thing just kind of goes kaplooey. Well, this morning I got up and I went and I checked, because it blew up on me yesterday. So this morning I checked. The valve was clean as a whistle. And so I made the coffee and I went to work. And I went down to get coffee right before the show started. What do you know? Coffee was everywhere. All over the counter, all over the floor. And I got like seconds before the show starts. And I'm like, I don't have time to clean this. So good times. Good times. All right. Story time. Story time. Once, many moons ago, I was applying for a job at a Catholic marketing firm. Okay. I will not name them. They are not in existence anymore. They have like a caterpillar morphed into something else. At any rate, I was a Catholic marketing firm, and I was very excited because they worked with a lot of movies, and I'm like, oh, that would be fun. That'd be kind of exciting and interesting to me to go work on, promoting and working with movie crews, to promote their films to audiences. I thought that would be pretty cool to do. So I went through this process, but let me tell you, man, was it a rough process. They make you take that Bragg's, what do you call that? The Myers-Briggs, like personality torture is really what it was. It was like, torturing you. And, so they make you take this test. And the entire time you take this test, all you're doing is second guessing every question. The entire time, all you're doing is thinking, did I answer that the way they wanted it? Like, I don't even know. Like, I'm just afraid that whatever answer I give is just going to be the wrong answer. And they're just going to psychoanalyze me. Well, guess what? They psychoanalyze you. So when they got the results back, I get on the phone, this conference call with the guy who runs this organization. And at the time, he still may be doing it actually, runs a much bigger Catholic organization with very famous Catholics that if I named them, you'd know them. And at any rate, and he goes through this Myers-Briggs thing with me, question by question. I was defensive I'm like, that's wrong. That's totally wrong. It's not right. It's wrong. Like the entire time I was so defensive. I couldn't believe the whole experience was just pain and suffering. And at the end of the day, I couldn't believe it. At the end of the day, even after that conversation, they offered me the job. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. And I was going to take this job. And I remember they offered it to me on a Friday. And I told them I would pray about it over the weekend. And my wife and my kids and I, we took a trip to Louisiana, to Brobridge, Louisiana, where I had the faithful opportunity of meeting one of the most incredible priests to walk the earth, Father Michael Champagne, one of the most brilliant, incredible priests you're ever going to meet. But when I first saw him walking down the aisle, January 1st of that year, on the feast day, he was wearing a dirty, tattered, gray habit for his religious community and combat boots and a shaved head and a scraggly old beard. And I thought, who come on, what is this? And then he preached, and I was like, oh my heavens, this man is brilliant. This man is amazing. And he preaches with the gift and the quality of a Thomas Aquinas, but with the accent of a Cajun oil field worker. It's just brilliant. And Father Champagne, look him up. Amazing. Anyway, we were coming back from that trip, and I told my wife, I said, I think I'm taking this job. I mean, I don't see any reason not to. And I remember Monday morning, I was going to, I texted, I think I either texted or sent an email. I think I sent an email that morning responding to their job offer saying, listen, I'm 99% sure I'm taking this job. I'm going to go to Mass. I'll let you know for sure when I get back from Mass. I go to Mass. I go to a daily Mass, and then I pray. And I'm like, Lord, before the Blessed Sacrament, I'm like, Lord, I'm going to take this job. If you don't want me to take this job, I need you to send someone to me to tell me not to take this job before I get to my office. Okay. And then, of course, there's no voices. I don't see no visions, nothing. We go to Mass. I get in my car. I'm driving to the office. Before I get to my office, I'm in the parking lot, getting ready to get out. I get a phone call from a friend that I hadn't talked to in a long time. Hey, what's going on? Well, hey, Joe, I was at Mass this morning, and I happened to run into somebody, and somehow you came up in the conversation, and I said, oh, I know that guy, and they're like, they said they have got to talk to you immediately. I'm like, oh, okay, and they gave me the phone number. I call this person, and this person proceeds to tell me, under no circumstances should you take that job. I'm like, oh, hey now, all right, there you go, folks. And so I turned the job down. Now I won't tell you why they said that. I won't share that part. But here's the part that I wanted to get to in this story time. Part of this is a Catholic marketing firm organization. The thing was, the majority of their clients weren't Catholic organizations. They were Protestant organizations. In fact, they were helping a particular Protestant organization who was making movies. This was a Baptist church who made movies as a part of their ministry. What they did as a church, they made movies. So the pastor, the associate pastors, the congregant, they all worked together to make these movies. And this was one of their main clients. On one of the movies, when they first got into a relationship with this Baptist church, they played like a secondary role. They supported another marketing firm who was like the main marketing firm for this movie. But during that filming project and during that movie release, what they discovered was 40% of their audience, the largest single block chunk out of the entire audience, was Catholic. And they were like, whoa, yikes, we're Baptist. The biggest section of our audience is Catholic. What does that mean? What should we do? How should we think about that? So on the next film project, they elevated this marketing firm to take the lead instead of a supporting role because they were the Catholics. So this marketing firm's job was to provide access to the Catholic world for this Baptist movie production company. And then, so I would have these conversations with somebody I knew at the organization, and they would tell me at these production meetings that they would have these conversations about the Catholic meter, where they felt the things ought to be. And what they discovered was that they needed to give a nod to Catholicism, but they weren't willing to go all the way. They weren't willing to truly be Catholic or like have Catholic characters go full out Catholic. They just wanted characters to maybe be Catholic or could be interpreted as Catholic. So to give an example, there was a scene where the character, who happened to be Hispanic, was getting dressed in the mirror, putting on a tie, and hanging on the mirror was beads. Now those beads, they weren't rosary beads. They were Mardi Gras beads. That was the extent of their willingness to go to the Catholic meter. And, and as I heard those stories and I discovered and I reflected back, I'm like, that's a problem. Like, I would have been compromised and had to agree that, like, I would have to the sake of the client, think that that's okay. It's not okay, right? That's the reality, is a lot of these organizations, these Protestant organizations, the Chosen, to get back to that example, they probably, and I don't know this because I have no insider information on it, but I'm willing to, if I were a betting man, I would say that the biggest chunk of their audience is Catholic. The biggest chunk of their audience is Catholic, which is why Dallas Jenkins made a big deal out of going and talking to Catholic priests about how to do and portray Our Lady, especially in that episode of The Wedding Feast at Cana, which is the episode that broke me away from never watching it again because of how bad they did, in my personal opinion. So I'll just reiterate what I said yesterday. I think it matters. I think it matters a lot. And, you know, we should be very careful about how we support that. But I also say, golly gee whiz, why aren't we coming up with these kinds of ideas? Like, where's the money that says, where's the crowdsourcing opportunity to raise the millions needed to produce something that is interesting, high quality, well produced, that is solidly Catholic? Why does that seem nearly impossible, at least in my view? There are some successes, Movie to Movement being a good example of that, but it seems like it's pulling teeth. There was another guy, there's a guy out of the Dakotas who made a Western. I think I mentioned this to you about a month ago. I watched his film. It's not made for kids. I think he did a pretty good job. Characters, you know, the acting, production quality. Was it perfect? No, but I thought it was pretty good. And it has Catholic values, Catholic ideals in the characters. They're gritty characters. And I thought his use of blasphemy was over the top and totally not necessary. I did try to get him on the show, but he bailed on me. I guess he didn't want to come. And I wish him only the best, by the way. But nonetheless, I applaud that. Like, let's do more. Can we do more? Let's do more. If I had the money, I'd give it to you, and I'd say go do more. Anyway. Let's see here. T-Storm says, I find that when I give my opinion on that current pope, and if I think about it for too long, that I end up putting myself in near occasion of sin. Therein lies the trick, isn't it? I would say that I have chosen, pun not intended, to not really focus on everything the Pope says. Like, he makes these statements or he does these things. I let a lot of that go. It's not, I guess I'm ignoring it, I suppose. But at the same time, I don't see the point in going down every single rabbit hole that gets put out there. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I would accomplish. I'm not sure what that would accomplish. Sci-Fi says, I try to be charitable. Sometimes I wonder if I should be less so. Unfortunately, I listen to that voice. Yeah. T-Storm says, so during the Black Friday, whenever they knock down basic cheap boat appliances to $5 or $10, I will purchase a couple of basic cheap ugly appliances for almost nothing and stick them up on a shelf in the closet. I always have a backup basic coffee maker in case we really, because the coffee maker dies. This way I can have coffee on the day. Okay, well, my backup option is I have an electric kettle and I have instant coffee. That's always the backup. But this morning I had actually leftover tea from last night. I drank that until the coffee was ready. The other problem with the blow-up thing on the coffee thing is it doesn't actually brew good coffee. It actually brews weak coffee when it does that, which is really annoying to me. Coffee should be thick and hearty. Same thing with the milkshake machines. So you have a backup milkshake machine just in case your primary milkshake machine fails you, Sci-Fi. That is some serious commitment to milkshake, I would argue. Yeah, exactly. Blah, 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 blah. I agree, T-Storm. Damon says, I think the biggest problem for making Catholic projects would be funding. Exactly. I thought about how cool it would be to have shows or movies based on the saints, the real life superheroes of our world. Okay, there are efforts. I mean, again, if you were to formed.org, you're going to find there's a whole bunch of movies there about saints. Some of them are made well, some are not. There's an Italian production company who's made a lot of saint movies, and then they dub them in English to put them into rotation here. So it's not as though it doesn't exist. It exists. It's just, in my opinion, needs to be 10x. We need to 1,000x, whatever the effort is now, because movies can move hearts. Movies have the capability of moving minds and hearts. So when things are made well, highly produced, well acted, good scripts, good storylines, these things can change hearts and minds. They are powerful evangelization tools. Similarly, this is why Arius used songs, pub tunes, the tunes being sung by drunk people, and putting his lyrics on top because they're catchy. They're catchy. People will hum them, they'll tune them. So similarly, we need to use these techniques to spread the good, the true, and the beautiful. And if I had the cash, this is so much what I would do. Now, fundraising is the biggest problem, right? But I would say similarly or tangentially related to that is distribution. So let's just say I could raise, whatever number you want to put on. Let's say $1 million. $1 million would make you a decent movie. It ain't going to make you the best movie. It'll make you a decent movie. Believe it or not, great movies are very expensive. They just are. So if you want to hire professionals to do the work, then you pay professional prices and you have to go through the process. So let's just say we had $1 million. We'd make a pretty darn good movie for $1 million. I think you could. I think you could make an amazing movie for $1 million. But the real problem is, what about distribution? Once you make your movie, do you just expect that movie theaters are going to put it on? They won't. Well, maybe you say, well, I'll sell it to a distributor. Okay, great. So you're willing to give up the rights to your film for the next 30 years? Maybe it's to the whole world. Or maybe the distributor says, I only want the rights to your film for the next 30 years for China or for Africa or for the United States or for Canada or for England or whatever. They break them down like that. So are you willing to give up your distribution rights for a particular country for a particular period of time in exchange for what will be probably pennies on the dollar? So distribution companies work for Hollywood because they have the budget and they can get the eyeballs. But for movie makers that operate at much lower levels, much lower budget, then it's a much bigger problem. So I don't recommend giving your movie over to a distributor. You won't make any money. You won't make your money investment back. So your investors won't make any money, which means they're never going to invest again because they're losing money. Number one. Number two is you probably won't get a lot of eyeballs on your film as well. And maybe you might get through a distributor because in order to get on, say, Netflix or Amazon Prime, you could try to go to direct. Netflix won't take you unless you go through a distributor first. And once you build a relationship with Netflix, then they might take you directly, but they don't like to do that unless it's just the biggest outlets. They prefer to go through a distributor to do that, which means you're forced to go down that distributor path again. Now, you can get on Amazon Prime without a distributor, but good luck getting anybody to ever watch your film. It'll be buried in the back catalog and no one will ever see it. And then what good is that? Like, what's the point in taking $1 million from someone, making a film that's fantastic or good, even at $1 million, and then no one ever watches it? Like, what is the point of that? So ultimately, I think as Catholic evangelists, we need the budget. We need the pros to go out and make the project. You need professionals who can write great scripts, who can do great acting, great cinematographers, lighting, grips, post-editing, music and score. Yeah, you have any idea what it costs to make sure that your film is copyright protected? Because if you want EWTN to broadcast that, well, they're going to require that you have copyright insurance, which requires a copyright attorney, which requires a lot of money before you even turn a camera on. So the whole process is convoluted and complicated, let's just say. Now, there's cheaper ways to get around it. But at the end of the day, it takes a crowd that says, we want to support these things, putting up their money to do them. And then I think it takes smart marketers to go, let's not go the traditional route. Let's instead take a chunk of that $1 million. Let's not spend $1 million on the film. Let's spend $700,000 on the film, and let's spend $300,000 on distribution. Let's run ads, highly targeted, a very sophisticated ad campaign that gets our product in front of the right audience with the right outcomes to make sure that we bring a return on investment and we get eyeballs on the product that can move hearts. And then you encourage that fan base to then reshare to strangers so we can move those hearts and minds. I think ultimately you have to have a machine in place that allows that to happen, because otherwise, I don't think we're ever going to see because that's the thing. That's the secret behind The Chosen. Yesterday, I mentioned that in the after show. There's reason number 666 was Daryl Eves. Daryl Eves is the guy who is the mastermind behind the building Mormon audiences to the tunes of millions and millions of viewers for Mormons on YouTube. The dude is smart. He knows what he's doing, and he builds massive channels and audiences, which is why he's behind The Chosen. He is doing that for that reason. And he is if I were Mormon, that'd be the guy I'd want doing it. Why can't we have a Catholic version of that? That's my point. It is crowdsourced, crowd-funded, crowd-distributed. That is the model we have to go. That is the one Mel Gibson did, but Mel Gibson did that across lines. He did Protestant and Catholic and everywhere in between, and he was very successful at The Passion. My question, though, becomes for Mel's follow-up Resurrection film is, will it be as successful? I don't know. We're about to find out, I suppose. We're about to find out. Reading through the comments. I still don't see, I lost all the comments. I'm not seeing any comments on Rumble today. So maybe nobody's commenting. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Let's see. I'm missing some stuff here. Got to go back. It's Ireland has the same problem. Going through reading comments here. Exactly, Scott. Even elderly yake ear as norm. I don't even know what that means. The young receiving the tongue, on the tongue. That's what scares Francis. It is bizarre. I think it's such a hypocrisy. What do you guys think? I compared and contrasted the pressure on traditional Catholics versus the negative pressure on TLM versus the positive pressure on Mayan right. Like, that just is bizarre to me. Like, we're going to embrace all of this Mayan culture. Some argue not pagan, but let's not forget the Mayans sacrificed humans just as much as the Aztecs did. The problems the Mayans had, Mayans attacked the conquistadors when they were on the Yucatan Peninsula. When they first landed there, it was the Mayans who attacked them, and they got into several skirmishes. And when Cortez landed there, he not only overcame them, but then he set up an altar, had mass said, and then through interpreters had them attend mass and had them put them in charge of keeping the image of Our Lady pure and undefiled while he was away, and the altar. So, you're in charge. This better stay this way, or I'm coming back. That's what Cortez did with the Mayans. Now, the Mayans didn't like the Aztecs because the Aztecs routinely attacked them, kidnapped their people, and slaughtered them in their human sacrifices. So the neighbors of the Aztecs were more open to cooperating with the Aztec culture as a result. But it seems bizarre to me that we're going to okay these Mayan aspects of the Novus Ordo, but we cannot seem to tolerate the traditional Latin Mass and the traditional Latin Mass Catholics who want more of Catholic piety, Catholic liturgy, Catholic culture that goes back, over more than the last millennium. Doesn't that seem bizarre? Even if you've never been to a TLM, that should still, it shouldn't pass the smell test. Yvonne said, Pope Francis said he wants only one way to celebrate the Latin Rite. Okay, well then what's the Mayan thing then? Because we're not talking about, you have the Byzantine, you have, the Russian, you got the Greek, you got the Coptics, you got all these other silos, let's say verticals. Mayan isn't a vertical by itself. It's a Latin, it would be within the Roman Rite, just like the Anglican Rite is, just like the Dominican Rite is, just like the Tridentine Rite is, So if the argument is we can only have one winner in the Roman Rite, and if your argument is the Novus Ordo, then the Mayan Rite can't proceed. That's the issue. But because you're giving a pass to the Anglican Rite, and because you're giving a pass to the Mayan Rite, apparently, and because you're giving a pass to the Dominican Rite or some of the other rites that are within the Roman Rite, but you're suppressing the TLM, then that is hypocrisy and doesn't make sense. Joe, it is clear that the enemy is in full rampage mode. Syncretism is all over the place in these times. Yea and amen. True story. True story. And flying plates. I don't even know what that means. What does the flying plates mean? I have no idea. Like a Greek wedding. Oh, okay. That would be fun to do. Just throw the plates around. Smash glasses too. Don't the Jews do that, right? They smash the glasses. Seems reasonable to me. Seems very, very reasonable to me. But I don't think it's... the one thing I think we have to be careful on as we run out of time is we can't say that the church rejects all cultures, even if they come from pagan roots, because that's just simply not true. We did embrace all cultures, the pagan ones. We did embrace them, and yes, you do see vestiges from those cultures still, extant in the church today. But we didn't just leave people in those cultures and pretend like it's okay to hang out in that culture and continue on. We elevated those cultures, or we conquered those cultures. So yes, we meet people where they're at, but we got to get them where they got to go. Therein lies the trick. And we all should be on the same page. And I agree, there should only be one winner of the Roman Rite. I do agree. And I have my opinion on which one that ought to be. And I have a suspicion that His Holiness would not agree with my opinion. At any rate, we'll see you guys back tomorrow, hopefully with no tech problems. God love you.